You're listening to the Chad Hasty Show on demand. Good for you. Now download the KFYO app and listen live weekday afternoons 5 to 7 p.m. Central.
Broadcasting from the great state of Texas, this is the Chad Hasty Show. News and views with a Lone Star perspective. You can sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Or call in at 1-800-687-0790. Now, here's Chad Hasty.
Good evening, Lubbock, Amarillo, Abilene, Wichita Falls, Midland, Odessa, Dallas, Fort Worth, down in Houston, over in El Paso, and of course anywhere else, inside or outside of the great state of Texas, wherever you may be listening on this Thursday, January 11th. Of 2024, 4 days away from the Iowa caucuses. They're coming up. They'll be here before you know it. 54 days until Super Tuesday, which of course Texas is involved in. And of course we've got just a lot to get into. Another busy show today as we have State Representative Dustin Burrows, who will appear here on the program. He's coming up at 5:35 to discuss his reelection campaign. We'll kick things off with him as far as the interviews go. McKenzie DiLullo with the Texan News will join us. Normally, she would be on at 5:35, but she's going to come on at 6:05 this evening and give us a rundown of all the news across the state, or at least some of the big headlines over at the Texan.news. So, we've got those two interviews today. We've got, Buc-ee's in the news. They've come out with their own tumbler because why not? Everyone else is coming out with their own cup. Buc-ee's might as well come out with their own cup, as well. So we've got that. We've got, local campaign races, to get into and get you an update on. We've also got, Dallas ISD. They're upping, all these school districts around the state. They're complaining about not having enough money. Well, Dallas ISD has decided, who needs a raise? No, not the teachers. No. The superintendent, that person needs a raise. And so I will get to that story during the show. Of course, last night was the big Republican debate. Did you watch it? Did you watch Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis take swipes at each other on stage for about 2 hours on CNN? Woo! Let me tell you something. I did not watch most of it at all. I did watch a little bit because I'm a good radio show host. I could have been bad. I could have watched something else, but I was good. Yes, I missed the first hour of it because I was watching the Trumpster during the town hall love fest, I guess you could say, from Fox News. Boy, that I don't know. It was kind of a snooze fest for me. It was a little bit of a snooze fest during the Iowa town hall with Trump. There were a lot of people who obviously they were going to caucus for Trump already. They asked him some very, very nice questions. Trump got away with one little fib, kind of a big fib, in which he had said that Fauci wasn't really a big part of his administration. Fauci was on stage every single day during COVID when Donald Trump was president of the United States. Come on. You can't try to sell me that one, that Fauci wasn't a big part of the Trump administration. He was a big part of the Trump administration. He was even a bigger part of Biden. But, yeah, no. Fauci was a major, I guess you could say, tool for a couple of different reasons. A tool during the Trump administration. So was Deborah Birx, Remember Fauci and Birx? And I think they went on tour together. They were a hit sensation, going around telling everybody to mask up, stay away from each other, don't hug grandma, don't see grandma, don't go and hug your mom because you could kill her. Leave all the old people stranded in homes by themselves. Don't go and see them. Take kids out of school. There's a lot of damage that we're going to be paying for a long time because of the decisions made by Fauci and Birx. And yes, some carried out by, yes, Donald Trump and also Joe Biden. So anyway, that was one part of the town hall that I just kind of rolled my eyes on last night. And by the way, it's one of the reasons why Trump won't be on the debate stage with Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley or anybody else, because he doesn't want to get into a debate over that. I don't blame him. I think he was brought kicking and screaming on some of these choices dealing with COVID and talking about the how many ever days to turn the curve or slow the growth of COVID, and the administration didn't order the nation to shut down, but they did say, hey, we've got to take some time to slow the curve and to slow down the growth of the COVID pandemic, and that didn't work. Never worked. None of it worked. None of it worked. There was nothing good about it. And then Operation Warp Speed, which was also endorsed by Fauci. So look, there's issues there. Now, we're not going to spend a lot of time getting into all of it, but when Trump said Fauci wasn't a big part of the COVID response during the administration, I did roll my eyes on that one. But then you tune over to CNN, and you had Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley up on stage, and it was just a disaster. Just an absolute disaster on stage. Which, by the way, you had Nikki Haley. You had Nikki Haley who was on stage, and the one thing with Ron DeSantis is that he can never just get in like a quick jab, it seems. And he won't go for the full quote unquote kill when he's on stage, because he could. There are plenty of things to go after Nikki Haley on, and he just doesn't do it. And of course, he also looks a little bit awkward on stage from time to time because he doesn't know how to, it's like he doesn't know what to do with his face after he answers a question. Do I smile? Do I not smile? What do I do? Are the cameras on me right now? He still looks a little bit awkward when he's on stage. So, and again, some of the answers last night, Nikki Haley, not ruling out bombing Iran. I mean, again, what you hear from Nikki Haley, it really is the same thing that you've heard from Republicans who have run for president year after year after year after year after year. It's the compassionate conservatism that we heard from George W. Bush. It was Mitt Romney's whatever type of republicanism that he ran on. Same as John McCain who had the bomb Iran. It's the same type of stuff. And that's why when push comes to shove, this is why Trump is leading everywhere. He talks different. He is not trying to get the U.S. into foreign entanglements, foreign wars that we don't need to be involved in. And that's something that I think a lot of people, after so many years of the U.S. Being involved in wars overseas, people are tired of it. They don't want to do it. They don't want to send our men and women across the world to die in wars that have nothing to do with the United States. And Trump really is the only one who talks about that. He's the only one who talks about it. He talks about corruption in both parties. And so, again, with Nikki Haley, she is the exact type of Republican that you have seen run numerous times for president. She's no different than most of the other Republicans who have run. Same as Tim Scott. And I like Tim Scott. Tim Scott seems like a very nice guy. He has a different worldview on a few different things. I love how he talks about the family. But he doesn't stand out to me any different than some of these other Republicans who have run before for president. And then Ron DeSantis, he's a little bit different. He's a little bit different, and what I like about him is that he does get stuff done. And we've seen a lot of conservative victories out of Florida, and it's hard to deny that. And that's one of the big reasons why Ron DeSantis at first seemed as though he was going to be one of the big-time challengers. The only problem with Ron DeSantis, and I don't know if this is just something in the water in Florida, but on paper, some of these candidates that come out of Florida should be good, really good candidates. Looking at Marco Rubio, looking at Ron DeSantis, not so much Cheb, but looking at Marco Rubio and looking at Ron DeSantis, and when they start running, they're just not very good. They're just not good campaigners. And I think that's really what it is for Ron DeSantis, is that he just doesn't come across as natural as Trump does. Trump comes across very natural, and a lot of it is because of, yes, he's had experience in Hollywood. He's had experience on TV and in movies, obviously hosting shows and being on Fox and being on CNN and being in the spotlight forever. So I think that is what has always helped Trump, is that he's had a little bit of that extra training, if you will, to be someone who comes across naturally, whereas Ron DeSantis just kind of stumbles over himself sometimes on this. And like I said, whenever Ron DeSantis finishes a sentence, it's like he doesn't know what to do with his face. And it's a very awkward thing. It's a superficial thing. It doesn't matter at the end of the day, but it does make people go, what's wrong with that guy? It's almost like after Marco Rubio had to have a sip of water during his response to the State of the Union, and he had to dip down below the lectern and get some water, and people were like, "What's up with that? Why is he so awkward? What's wrong with Marco Rubio?" That kind of adds to some of the thing. Again, it's a superficial. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but just anything can turn people off of any of these candidates. So anyway, I did watch last night Trump at the town hall. Watched a little bit of the debate last night. At one point, I was kind of getting tired during the DeSantis Haley debate, because it doesn't matter. It really doesn't. It's one of the most awkward things, watching these two people debate, seeing the moderators, and then afterwards you have the panel discussing things, and before you have the panel discussing things, and everyone's ignoring the big elephant in the room, who wasn't in the room, which is Trump is still leading both of these people by more than 60 points in just about every single state. That other than New Hampshire, and Trump's doing well in Iowa, he's probably going to win Iowa, but other than in New Hampshire, where Nikki Haley is within a few points, whatever that means, other than in New Hampshire, Trump is just bludgeoning everybody. And you almost have to suspend reality to even get hyped up about these debates between DeSantis and Haley. I think they're going to have another one next week. I think there's going to be another debate next week between these two. And again, I just go, why? I think Ron DeSantis should probably drop out after Iowa and the beating that he takes in Iowa. Texter saying, I think Trump lost the ability to debate. Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know if he's lost the ability to debate. He just doesn't have to. And listen, even David Axelrod, Obama's former bigwig, said it was a shrewd move. It's very shrewd. Politically, you have nothing to gain if you're Trump. You're leading everybody. You're bludgeoning everybody in the polls after New Hampshire. Politically speaking, there is no reason for Trump to debate. And if I were part of the Trump campaign, I'd probably be telling them, you'd be silly to debate. It's a waste of time to debate. These people are polling 60 points below you. There's no reason to be on stage with these folks. 806-680-2790. The first voice you hear from when you dial in today He's he's known as the official show librarian. Also, he's the guy who loves to wear sweaters. The producer of the Chad Hasty Show, Nick, over on the other side, who just wants to listen to a little Gloria Estefan before the show, and leave him alone when he's listening to Gloria Estefan. It was really something watching Nick listen to while looking at what the weather forecast is going to be in the coming days. And he's like, hey, we need to heat things up in the studios. Oh, I don't know exactly what that means, but producer Nick, the first voice you hear from when you dial in at 1-800-687-0790. Give us a text as well at 806-680-2790. There we go. There's Nick. We'll be right back.
The Chad Hasty Show can be heard all over West Texas, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Tune in on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO in Lubbock, News Talk 940 in Amarillo, News Talk 94.7 and 1470 KYYW in Abilene, and in Wichita Falls on News Talk 96.3 and 1290. The Chad Hasty Show. Make it a part of your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Friday edition Clay Travis, Buck Sexton Show. The last weekday before the votes officially start to come in for 2024. Plus,
continued craziness at the border, and it's happening also in American cities like New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles because the Biden border is wide open. We'll talk about how this affects the upcoming elections on Clay and Buck.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Tomorrow morning at 11.
Religion and Reality, Sundays at noon on KFYO.
All right, welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. Appreciate you tuning in today. You can send in your thoughts on the text line. 806-680-2790. Michelle from Southwest Ohio drove down to Kentucky a few weeks ago to get to go to Buc-ee's to get my tumbler and jerky for the husband. First trip won't be the last. Well, thank you, Michelle from Ohio, for tuning in and sending the text. The Buc-ee's tumbler. Really, they're like sold out now. People were going nuts for them earlier. Story that I read out of the Houston Chronicle is that people were very, very excited to get their hands on it. Everybody wants their the new cup craze, whatever that may be. We've got State Representative Dustin Burrows who will be joining us coming up at 5:35 this evening. ERCOT issuing a weather watch ahead of potential hard freeze as early as next week. Now, something important to remember about the hard freeze that's going to be coming in, because I've seen a lot of social media posts that, oh my goodness, what's going to happen with the grid? Will the grid fall apart? Will we lose power? A lot of questions that are out there. A lot of questions that are out there about the grid. Something important to remember about what happened in 2021, in February of 2021. And what we're going to see with the upcoming Arctic air mass that'll be coming over the state of Texas. This is just cold air. We've had this before. Even before 2021, we've had cold air that has seeped into the Lone Star State, and everything has been fine. Here in Lubbock, you're going to start seeing temperatures on Sunday below freezing. On Monday, possible record low temperatures right around 6 degrees. The wind chill is going to be one of the major issues. The wind chill, I think, in Lubbock on Monday morning is supposed to be around minus 11 degrees. Nick, make sure you have a heavy sweater for Monday, okay? Up in Amarillo, You guys are going to be even colder. It's going to be like highs around 0 or lows around 0, maybe sub-0 with wind chills. I think I've seen one prediction of a wind chill around a minus 30 in the northern panhandle. Whew. Although, I don't know can you really feel the difference between minus 11 and minus 30? At that point, you're just miserable. There's no reason to be outside. So, I don't know if there's really that much of a difference when you open the door and you go, whoo, it's just going to be cold. But by Tuesday, we're going to be above freezing. So it's going to last Sunday, Monday, Tuesday afternoon. Most of us will get out of freezing. In 2021, you had freezing rain. You had branches falling on electric lines. You had electric poles snapping. You obviously had ERCOT unprepared for what was going to happen. And it lasted for 8 days. Below freezing temperatures for 8 days. So, don't get caught up in the hype that you see on social media that this is going to be just as bad as 2021. It's good to be prepared. Get your candles ready. Get, some wood for the fireplace, all that kind of stuff. But I don't anticipate this will take down ERCOT. We'll be right back with State Representative Dustin Burrows.
Call in to the Chad Hasty Show at 1-800-687-0790. The Chad Hasty Show, broadcasting on the Texas Town Square Media Network.
Diane from Michigan, a disabled senior citizen trying to get by. Henry from Florida, a veteran fighting to make ends meet. Elena from Arizona, a mother struggling to feed her daughter. Hi, I'm Connie Britton, and I support Feeding America because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year, like Diane, Henry, and Elena. Learn more at feedingamerica.org. Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
I'm Ryan Seacrest. First responders are people who stand for a greater purpose. They will be there for you when nobody else is, to help you, your family, your community. This is their selfless promise. This is their sworn duty to protect, to serve, to help. When you call 911, first responders show up now. Let's show up for the people who show up for us every day and every night.
Go to firstrcf.org and make a difference today.
News and talk of West Texas. News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO. Don't you forget about Chad at Chad Hasty Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and on your radio. Now back to the Chad Hasty Show.
All right, welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. Glad to have you with us today. You can always listen. Of course, if you miss the show, miss any of our interviews, you got the podcast that you can go back and listen to and share among your friends and neighbors and all that kind of good stuff. And, of course, we are hot and heavy into the political primary season. We've got now 54 days until Super Tuesday. They're going to go by just like that. And joining us in studio to discuss his reelection campaign is Chairman Dustin Burrows, State Representative, District 83, running for reelection. Welcome back.
Chad, happy to be on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to see you. And you look a little bit refreshed from the last time I saw you, where it was, I think, right after one of the 240-something days that you guys were down in Austin.
Yeah, it's not a record for the number of sessions, but it's the record number of days we spent in a year in Austin. And, I think I've told you before, the happiest sight for me is Austin, Texas in my rearview mirror.
Yeah.
Love being home where people make sense and there's still good values.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about, some of the things that obviously you're running for reelection. what would you like to accomplish? What more do you want to get done?
Look, our campaign is certainly about our record. If you like what you've seen over the last two sessions, it is easy to ask for the vote. We have done so much. Texas is embraced and is probably the most pro-life state in the entire nation. I was one of the joint authors of the Heartbeat Bill, sued by 13 different times and served by that. So proud of that legislation. We have done so much for the Second Amendment in the last two cycles. We've joined the other states as a constitutional carry state. We have made Texas a sanctuary for the Second Amendment, where if the federal government ever comes down and tries to do gun bans or gun registries, we're not going to comply with them. We've even made good, convenient things like if you stop at a hotel, you don't have to leave your firearm in your car, which is not the right place for it. You can take it in. They cannot deny you access to that. We have done so much to make our elections incredibly integral, making sure that only U.S. citizens can vote by checking the voter rolls, making sure you have to have voter ID for even mail-in ballots. We've done so many good things in Governor Abbott, and we've been so happy to partner with him on defending our southern border. So lots and lots of good things, lots of things we need to continue, and there's a lot left to do.
So this is where I think for some people who maybe pay more attention to X and social media, there seems to be a couple of different worlds when it comes to Republican Party politics, because you have on social media, you have a lot of activists who will say that nothing conservative got done. Sometimes they'll also send out a newsletter saying that a lot of conservative things did get done. You'll have the governor say it was a very good conservative session. Others who will say, and then these are Republicans, who say it was not a conservative session. What is the average voter supposed to do when they're hearing all these mixed messages?
If you think that having integral elections where we actually have made sure only U.S. citizens can vote, making sure that you have to have voter ID is conservative, we had a conservative session. If you think basically banning abortion is conservative, we had a tremendously conservative last two sessions. If you believe having the most pro-Second Amendment state with constitutional carry and the other things I mentioned is conservative, we had a tremendously powerful conservative session. Banning gender modification, making sure you can't have porn in school libraries, making sure you have to have online verification so that you have only age-appropriate content so you can't go on and get pornography to our young children's conservative. We had a tremendously conservative session. Property tax cuts. The list goes on and on and on. When I started 5 sessions ago, we were lucky to get 1 or 2 big conservative victories. There's a huge list now. Huge list. Texas is leading the way in the entire country, and I don't know. I think it is objectively verifiable. We've had 2 of the most conservative sessions in the history of the state, and we've done great policy. And I look forward to expanding upon that.
Visiting with Chairman Dustin Burrows here in the studio. Let's talk about property taxes. Obviously, the last couple of sessions, property tax reform has been something that you've focused on. It's been something that Republicans have been focusing on. What more can get done? What more needs to be done?
Yeah, we need to continue to drive down, make sure that we have less and less of a property tax burden out there. I think there's still some reforms. I was proud to carry and privileged to carry SB 2 in 2019, landmark reform legislation. I want to see some tweaks to that, making sure, again, that like certificates of obligation and non-voter approved debt is actually going to be counted against the voter approval rate. Kind of a wonky thing to say, but a very, very important thing for those who are kind of tax nerds and want limited government. I mean, today's spending is tomorrow's taxes, so if you can constrain spending today, it's going to help on the overall tax effect. I also want to see more money continued to buy down property taxes through what we have been doing and like in the past, and I think those are very, very good things, and I'd support doing more of it.
School choice, is that something that you think is going to get where are we on that on that debate, I guess?
Look, at the end of the day, Texas will join the 32 other states that allow for some form of school choice. I believed that we were going to get something done this last session. We did not. I think we got closer than people realized. I do think that, there's also going to have to create a win-win situation, especially for our rural schools, and I support that. So we're going to have to see increased funding in rural schools to get it done. I think we will get it done this next session. I think it's a good thing. I do not think it's going to be problematic or bad, and the people who say that, the sky is falling, I just don't see that.
Is it, and I've seen some of this from some of your fellow Republicans in the House who say the reason why school choice and some of the conservative wins that didn't happen, which, again, you and I have talked about this so many times, that after so many sessions, that not every piece of legislation that you want to pass is going to pass. That the session is often designed to kill legislation. And the House has different rules than the Senate. But you have some House members who say there's been a failure in leadership, and that's why we haven't gotten some things passed, including school choice.
So I totally disagree with them on this. I think that they are self-serving. I think we live in an era of TikTok populism where they basically want to go out there and, get to claim and beat their chest that they're conservative and they have nothing to show for actually helping these big, big wins actually get across the finish line. 15.5% of the bills that were filed were passed in the last two sessions. It is a very small number, but the big, huge, historic pro-life victories, Second Amendment is inarguable. It's inarguable. If you did not have conservative leadership in the Texas House and Senate, those would not have gotten done. They've gotten done. I think the case is closed on that.
When it comes to reining in, is this even an issue anymore of reining in the governor's powers during a pandemic and more that can be done for future governors?
Look, I'm happy to have the debate on that. The versions of the bill that people have pushed in the past, I have not ever really liked. The idea is if there's a tornado, we're going to go have a special session. What are we going to do if there's a tornado in a special session the governor can't already do? We're going to spend money and pass more laws. I don't think more laws always solve the problems. So when we're talking about natural disasters and we're talking about floods and hurricanes, we would be in almost perpetual session spending your money, tax money, and passing feel-good laws if we were called back each and every time there was a natural disaster. I don't think that's the way we need to govern. I don't think that's limited government. That's not coinciding with where I think Texas's brilliance has been on having a limited government. That being said, if there's a proposal to make sure that a future governor who wants to do some weird woke things, with executive powers and things like that, I'm happy to help probably even sponsor a bill that would make sure that those things could not happen. That's not the threat that we face. But the versions I've seen in the past with natural disasters, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
One of the pieces of legislation that you were championing in the last legislative session, you have some who've called it the Death Star bill, and that you're really reining in local governments. One, what type of what is that going to do with local government? How is that going to quote unquote rein them in? Two, do we need to go even further?
It is the best bill ever passed. I only half say that joking. It is a phenomenal piece of legislation. And so let me answer your last question first.
Yeah.
There was a sequel in Star Wars, and there was a second Death Star. And I'm already starting to construct what we need to have for that second Death Star to come alive. But look, it was a pejorative that they threw out trying to make fun of the bill. I've owned it, and proudly so, and we'll just continue to do that. Our big urban centers where they have taken values, they've taken their faith, and they've shoved it to the side have gotten out of control. They're trying to do these weird, bad policies that will affect the entire state, whether that's banning, the use of thermal energy using hydrocarbons and things of that nature, whether it is trying to jack with business by doing, increased minimum wages or paid sick leave or all these types of things. We can't allow that to continue to happen and let that set the course. And these cities were never intended to do that. Obama said in 2008 to his supporters, I can't get done for you what I want to do, so you're going to have to go through the city halls and do that. And we're starting to see them try to get their weird progressive ways and missions accomplished in Austin, in Houston, in Dallas, in these other places through these organizations, through their taxpayer-funded lobbyists. And my bill shuts most of that down.
I want to ask you something, and it just kind of popped up in my mind. And really, as of right now, this may have nothing to do with the state legislature. But it's been brought up because of the so-called Death Star bill. And that is in Lubbock, you've got a group of people who are trying to quote-unquote decriminalize marijuana or low levels of marijuana. Number one, you're an attorney. You're a good attorney, so you know the law. Can this actually be something that's passed? And number two, does this run afoul of they say that this doesn't have anything to do with the Death Star bill.
The Death Star bill does not actually touch this version. Death Star 1 does not touch the penal code. Death Star 2 may have to touch the penal code to make sure that it's explicit.
Right.
But you cannot have each city creating their own version of what is and what is not legal in there. I believe it's already preempted. I don't think it's good policy for us to have, a hodgepodge of different things, what the laws are that could actually throw you in jail, take away your liberty. It is not good policy. It's being pushed across the state probably to get the vote out, to try and influence future elections, to try to get voters on there. And so that's, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. So it's, in your opinion, it's not legal anyway because it has to deal with the penal code, and that's something that cities can't change, even though some have tried.
Yes.
Some have tried.
They can't and they shouldn't.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Visiting with Chairman Dustin Burrows here on the Chad HD Show. We've got a couple of minutes left before he has to get out and do some fatherly duties as he's picking up kids and doing all that kind of good stuff. When it comes to just a couple of your priorities that you want to get done that maybe haven't gotten done yet, what's one or two?
Well, there's several. I mean, obviously, I'm one of the biggest supporters of banning taxpayer-funded lobbying, and you and I have talked so many times about that. Love to get that done next session. A couple of things that I'm working on that may not have made it up to the, big-ticket items. When we talk about open records requests, I've heard so many in the media basically say that they cannot find out what is going on. And if you look at the original text of the open meetings and the open records request, it talks about the people, must insist on retaining control of what they've created. So they have to have open access to that. And I want to work on that issue. I think that's very important, and maybe not something that rises to the headlines every day, but just a good foundational piece of government that there is. Rural health care is very important to me, and making sure that Texas Tech Health Science Center is not only adequately funded, but we're investing the resources in it to get out there and do telemedicine, telehealth, and really take care of this region. So you'll see that be a huge priority next time. And also I'm hearing about, some of these weird organizations that are sending our children to other states to do these gender modifications. And we need to look at what we did in the heartbeat bill or some others to shut that down from happening. And I'm working with a great Hispanic conservative group to try to get some legislation drafted that would be able to shut down what we're seeing where they're trying to traffic our children, basically.
Wow. Tell folks about any website, Facebook, all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, Burrows4TX. That's the number 4, Burrows4TX. That is my Twitter handle. That is Facebook. That is Instagram. That's also the website. You can get more information there. So obviously, would love to answer any questions that you have about things. Or, I'll tell you the best thing about campaigning is you get out there and there's issues that, don't always get on your radar and you learn about them, but it's just things that we need to be better taken care of. So I'm excited about this and look forward to hearing from people in District 83. All
right. When we come back, your phone calls, your text messages, and more. That's Chairman Dustin Burrows seeking re-election in HD 83. We'll be right back on the Chad HD Show.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton.
Friday edition, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton Show, the last weekday before the votes officially start to come in for 2024. Plus,
continued craziness at the border, and it's happening also in American cities like New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles because the Biden border is wide open. We'll talk about how this affects the upcoming elections on Clay and Buck.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton, tomorrow morning at 11.
There will be one less birthday party to celebrate today. One less coffee date with a friend today. One less family dinner today. Because there will be one less motorcycle rider on the road today. On average, a motorcyclist is killed on Texas roads every day. When you're behind the wheel, obey the speed limit and be extra careful at intersections. Let's start turning that one less into one more. Please share the road and look twice for motorcycles. There's a life riding on it. A message from TxDOT.
Talk Radio, Michael Berry. Weekday mornings 8:30 to 11 on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO.
All right. Thank you very much for tuning in today. McKenzie DiLullo joins the program coming up at 6:05 this evening. The Dallas school superintendent making some money, that's for sure. Dallas school superintendent's salary bumped up to $375,000 a year. Not bad. Yeah, Dallas school superintendent Stephanie Azaldi will receive a contract extension and a $37,000 salary bump. Woo, they must be bringing in some money in Dallas ISD. I hope they're not asking for any extra money from the state legislature for anything. I hope they have all the officers and school security they need, to make all those changes. I'm sure they do, since they can afford a $37,000 salary bump. Copy of the amended agreement provided to the Dallas Morning News shows that Elizadi's new base salary will be $375,000, extends her leadership of the state's second largest district through 2028. DISD School Board voted to approve it during today's board meeting. The vice president said, "This is the easiest decision I've made since I've been on the board." She's one of those leaders who takes responsibility for anything that goes wrong, gives away credit to everyone else when things go right. Well, that's nice of her. So, yeah, $375,000 to run Dallas ISD. Not bad. I'm sure there are some other perks as well. A few. When we come back, McKenzie DiLullo with the Texan News will join us.
The Chad Hasty Show, a presentation of the Texas Town Square Media Network. The views and opinions expressed during the Chad Hasty Show are not necessarily the views of this station staff, management, advertisers, or Town Square Media. Broadcasting from the great state of Texas, this is the Chad Hasty Show. News and views with a Lone Star perspective. You can sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. That's 806-680-2790. Or call in at 1-800-687-0790. Now, here's Chad Hasty.
All right, welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show. Appreciate you being out there today. Final hour of the program. I want to thank Representative Dustin Burrows for joining us. We will have more candidates next week that will be joining us throughout the week as we continue to visit with those running for office in the primary season. We'll also get to some local candidates running for office. Like we've got, I think right now we're up to about 35 people running for Lubbock mayor. It seems like so. That's great. We'll interview mayoral candidates. We'll interview city council candidates. Listen, if you're running for office and you're listening to the show, you can email me, chad@kfyo.com. That's chad@kfyo.com. Let me know who you are, what office you're running for. We'll get you on the show as soon as possible, and we always enjoy interviewing the candidates out there and letting the voters hear from the candidates themselves. And we also like to visit with our next guest, one of our favorite guests here on the Chad Hasty Show, McKenzie DiLullo, joining us with the Texan News. They're covering all the statewide news that's out there. McKenzie, welcome back. How are you today?
I'm well, Chad. Good to be back.
Yeah, great to have you. And let's get started with some of the news that's happening over on the Texan. One of those stories having to deal with the Texit group. They're trying, it seems, to get on a ballot.
Yes, Yes, absolutely. They're back in the news again. This is a Texas nationalist movement, and they filed their long-promised suit against the Texas GOP over the rejection of the group's petition effort to place a Texit question on the party primary ballot. Texas is seceding from the union. That is the issue at hand. The GOP last year, at the end of the year, announced it had rejected a 139,000 signature petition submitted by the group that would have placed a non-binding question on the ballot that read, should the state of Texas reassert its status as an independent nation? Now, the petition was rejected 2 grounds. They say it was not timely filed, and that the vast majority of the signatures were electronically signed through DocuSign. The party argued that those signatures must be wet or signed with ink, and only around 8,000 of the submitted met that requirement. The group said itself rejected over 30,000 electronic signatures after checking them with voter registration records, arguing due diligence. Now, 13 days after that rejection, so almost 2 weeks, the group asked the state Supreme Court to overrule the state party in order that the proposition be placed on the ballot. The petitioners are requesting immediate decision from the court. Now, had the signature petition been approved, the actual language on the ballot would not necessarily be what the group circulated. The SREC, the State Republican Executive Committee that is central to the Texas GOP, will have to finalize and approve the wording, but the group is asking that the court order their placement of the wording on the ballot. GOP Chair Matt Rinaldi said that this petition would ask the Supreme Court to rule that electronic signatures gathered over the internet are allowable for all election code purposes, specifically citing concern over that being used for voter registration and mail-in ballot applications, as well as petitions, and says that it has what Democrats have been fighting for years. The court denied the Nationalist Movement's mandamus petition on Wednesday afternoon, so yesterday, and the group then filed another suit in Travis County District Court, requesting a TRO against the ballot printing until the proposition is added. So certainly something we'll keep an eye on. It's nowhere near done, but it is messy and all over the place.
So weren't they delayed in filing the first file?
Yes, they were. They were delayed. The group's attorney said that the filing delay occurred because the rejection came while he was on a pre-scheduled vacation.
I hate that. When you're on vacation, you got important business that's out there. You'd think someone else would open up the letter and let you know that something had happened with that. It just, to me, it doesn't seem as though it's going to go in the way of Texit on this ballot proposition.
A lot has to happen for it to go the way of Texit, but I doubt this is the last we'll hear of it, and a lot of Texans care very deeply about this issue, but the organization is a little bit of what's in question here.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of the other, of course, there's lots of news over on the Texan, the Texan.news that people can check out, including, and you hate to hear about this, a rise in homelessness.
Yes. So the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, known as HUD, we know it as HUD, released a homelessness assessment report and showed that despite Texas's decreased homelessness population over the long term, that the state has seen an increase over the past year. Certainly not something we're used to hearing. In Texas, they say that the state has experienced a 13% increase in homeless individuals. However, over the course of 2007 to 2023 overall, the amount declined by 20%. Okay, so we're looking at just 1 year here when we're talking about these numbers. The number of homeless veterans also increased over the past year by 325, a rise of 19%. The analysis said that San Antonio and Dallas accounted for over 1/3 of that increase. Notable that does not include Austin. The single night analysis in January of last year found that Texas accounted for 6% of all veterans experiencing homelessness. So now, again, I'll note that this is another stat that matters. The state did experience a long-term decrease in homeless veterans between 2009 and 2023 by almost 63%. So long term, we're certainly seeing improvements, but last year, for some reason, we're definitely seeing an increase.
Yeah. And then back to the courts, because we have more court filings that have been a flurry of court filings.
No kidding. So we have mail-in ballots that are expected to be printed before January 20th. So we have a lot of folks trying to figure out if they can push their opponents off the ballot ahead of the March 5th primary. And now we have legal challenges filed in state district courts to the state Supreme Court, specifically relating to this. Now, central to these controversies are the guidelines established under the election code for placing candidates or measures on the ballot, and this would include Texit, an allegation saying that these rules were not followed. Now, perhaps the most senior or notable figure facing a challenge in the Supreme Court is Supreme Court Justice John Devine, a Republican incumbent. He was seeking his third 6-year term in office, facing a primary challenger, a state appellate court judge, Brian Walker. The petition currently being considered by his colleagues on the Supreme Court is alleging that Devine failed to obtain the statutorily required 50 voter signatures from each of the state's appellate court regions. Now, this is part of what is difficult about this. If the state law prohibits voters from signing more than one candidate petition for each position in the same primary cycle, and according to filings, a petition circulator in El Paso collected signatures for Walker in May and then collected many duplicates of those signatures for Devine months later. But Devine is not the only judicial candidate facing scrutiny over these signatures. And I will say as well, Devine and State Chairman Matt Rinaldi both pushed back on this lawsuit, saying that precedent shows that this can be corrected instead of having a candidate thrown off the ballot. But we're seeing a Democrat counterpart of Rinaldi, the Texas Democratic Chair Gilberto Hinojosa, is facing a lawsuit before the Supreme Court also over a candidate application. We're seeing Justice Peter Kelly serves on the First Court of Appeals, facing challenger Amber Nicole Boyd-Cora. And he contends that she incorrectly answered a question on the application, and he's trying to get her pushed off the ballot. So lots of challenges. There are more than just that. Certainly a piece worth going and checking out at the Texan.news. But like I said, ballots are looking to be printed by January 20th. That's about 9 days away. So this has got to be figured out soon.
All right. What can people also see over at the Texan.news?
Absolutely. Well, we have Austin Police Association criticizing Travis County prosecutors after an attack by a, quote, machete-wielding maniac. We've seen several machete attacks locally here in Austin over the last few months. Definitely worth going and checking out, especially in light of the homelessness increase in the state.
Is that the same machete person who was inside the hotel with the machete? Is it the same story? Or
different
same
guy,
person?
very different person, very similar.
Goodness. See, this is why there needs to be like a warning when you drive into Austin and being like, watch out for machetes.
I think Matt Schaefer, Republican from East Texas, tweeted out "machete control now," which had us chuckling.
I think we need it. Absolutely. All right, McKenzie, as always, thanks for your time. Appreciate it, and we'll visit with you next week.
Thank you, Chad. Have a good one.
That's McKenzie DiLullo with the Texan News. Visit the Texan.news. Get caught up to date with everything happening around the great state of Texas. We'll be right back.
You've got a cute way of talking.
The Chad Hasty Show can be heard all over West Texas, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. Tune in on News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO in Lubbock, News Talk 940 in Amarillo, News Talk 94.7 and 1470 KYYW in Abilene, and in Wichita Falls on News Talk 96.3 and 1290. The Chad Hasty Show. Make it a part of your drive home, weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Friday edition Clay Travis Buck Sexton Show, the last weekday before the votes officially start to come in for 2024. Plus,
continued craziness at the border, and it's happening also in American cities like New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles because the Biden border is wide open. We'll talk about how this affects the upcoming elections on Clay and Buck.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton, tomorrow morning at 11.
Weekend, Saturday nights at 7 on KFYO.
Show. Thank you very much for tuning in today. You can send in your thoughts on the text line 806-680-2790. Tomorrow on the show at, I believe, 5:35, we'll be visiting with the folks over at the RNC, get an update on what to expect out of the Iowa caucus. You can send in your text messages at 806-680-2790. Again, that's 806-680-2790. If you want to weigh in on any of the topics that we've been getting into. Let's see, some text messages coming in. No matter who, Lubbock will get a liberal mayor. Well, listen, I wouldn't say that that's necessarily the case. You've got a lot of candidates who have picked up packets, and you still have time for candidates to pick up packets as well in the mayoral race and city council races. Let's see, Ruckus weighing in. I think I like Dustin Burrows, and I don't like many people. That from Ruckus on the text line. The U.S. and U.K. Striking the Iranian-backed Houthi targets in Yemen after attacks in the Red Sea. The United States and Britain carrying out a series of airstrikes on military locations belonging to the Houthis in Yemen early Friday in response to the militant group's ongoing attacks on vessels traveling through the Red Sea. Fox News told there were attacks on more than a dozen targets by air, surface, and subsurface platforms. The strikes came shortly after the White House called a lid on Biden's engagements for the evening, and he was not expected to discuss the matter publicly. Also follows news that the Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin had not notified the president of his whereabouts when he was in the ICU. And this is something Nikki Haley brought this up in the terrible debate last night on CNN, which was she was shocked to learn that Joe Biden did not speak to his defense secretary every day. And I thought that was a very good point. That Joe had no idea for days that his defense secretary was in the hospital. Had no idea. In anticipation of the attack, Houthi forces transported some weapons and equipment, fortified others, the Wall Street Journal reported, citing U.S. defense official. The Houthi forces, they've got a lot of these weapons that are mobile. They can move them around pretty easily. Local reports indicated that militants were evacuating the Red Sea city during before the attacks. The British Prime Minister briefed his cabinet of ministers late Thursday on the imminent military intervention. And of course, there was news that leaked out, and that's part of the thing that I hate seeing. And there were numerous news stories out today that the U.S. was going to launch airstrikes. Well, actually, it started last night. That the U.S. was probably going to launch airstrikes against targets in Yemen. And again, what are we doing to ourselves? Why are we leaking? Why are we announcing to anyone what we're doing? Why tip off the enemy? It makes absolutely no sense. It shows that the adults are not in charge in Washington, D.C. Remember that was one of the slogans that Joe had used? The adults were back in charge? Not really. The adults are not in charge in Washington. And I think the adults have had to be reminded that you need to inform people when you're taking time off. 806-680-2790. 2790. Let's see. Text messages coming in totally off topic. It's okay. But I ate lunch with my son at school, discovered they do not have whole milk. He was drinking 2%. Children should be drinking whole milk. They need animal fats for proper brain development. School kids aren't getting fat from drinking whole milk. They're getting fat from eating sugar at home. The fats that your body produces to store excess carbohydrates are not useful for brain development. Is this Michelle Obama's fault or someone else's? I got to say, I have no idea. We will look into it. Text me, if you will, which school district. Because I don't know if this differs from school district to school district, or maybe is 2% cheaper than whole milk. I don't know. Today, by the way, I think today's National Milk Day. Is that true? Is that right? Does that sound right? Today, National Milk Day? It was either today or yesterday that was National Milk Day. So, today's National Milk Day. Okay. Nick, are you a fan of milk or no fan? What do you think about milk?
I haven't had cow's milk in quite a while. Not by preference, just by happenstance.
Yeah. I'm not.
It's just almond milk, really. If
almond
I have
milk. What is almond milk? The hell is that?
You've never milked an almond?
No.
It's delicious.
What is almond milk?
It's milk from almonds.
Why do you drink wonderful. The almond milk?
Because the other person who drinks the milk prefers that.
Okay,
and it's not just me drinking
milk. Okay, gotcha.
But it's not bad. I mean, it's almond milk. It tastes like almonds, but it's milk. I don't know. It's not bad. I really don't care. But I don't really drink milk.
Yeah, there are bigger fights to have.
Exactly.
Yeah, there are bigger discussions to have over versus the milk.
In Wisconsin, growing up, we used to have. We'd have glasses of milk, all the time. For dinner, breakfast, cereal, all the time. We'd have milk every single day. I'd have milk.
Whole milk?
Whole milk. Oh yeah, whole milk. But moving to Texas, I don't know. I slipped away from the milk scene.
Yeah. You got engaged and you moved over to the almond milk. That's what it is.
C'est la vie, I guess.
I guess so, yeah. Texter, I wonder what Trump would be doing with the Houthis. We've sat around for a month shooting down their missiles and drones. Seems like a few big dumb bombs on land targets cost less than waste interceptor missiles. Again, I think if Trump were president right now, again, I could be completely wrong on this. But I think if Trump were president right now, you wouldn't be having this problem. I think, and let me just say this, if you had a somewhat competent president right now, you would not be having this problem. But if you had Trump as president, I really don't think you would be having this issue. When we come back, your text messages, thank you for responding on which school district it is. We'll check and see what the reason is for the 2% versus at least it's not almond milk, which is not real milk. Milk from an almond. OMG, Nick is a Yankee. You're just now figuring this out, huh? Yeah. Oh, yeah, he's from Wisconsin.
The Chad Hasty Show, weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. Sound off during the show by sending Chad a text at 806-680-2790. Today's markets from the Texas Department of Ag.
Well, howdy, neighbors. Texas feeder catalogs reporting prices steady to $20 higher. Cattle futures are up. February live cattle futures up $1.05. Close at $171.80. January feeder cattle futures up $1.65 to close at $226.27. March cotton futures up a point, close at $81.36. March wheat futures down 8 cents, close at $6.16 a bushel. March corn down a penny to close at $4.58. And January soybean futures up 3 cents, close at $12.31 a bushel. January soybean meal futures up a dime, close at $361.40 per ton. January Class 3 milk futures down a penny, close at $15.19 a hundred. February crude oil futures up 65 cents, closed at 72.02 per barrel, and the Dow Jones is up 15 points, closed at 37,711. And that's market roundup from the Texas Department of Agriculture. I'm your commissioner, Sid Miller. And remember, friends, Texas agriculture matters. Sold.
News and talk of West Texas. News Talk 95.1 and 790 KFYO. Don't you forget about Chad at Chad Hasty Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and on your radio. Now back to the Chad Hasty Show.
All right, so we did some milk research during the break, and to the listener who was asking if it was Michelle Obama's fault, it actually is Michelle Obama's fault. And this goes back to a bill that was passed a year ago. Didn't go anywhere because the Democrats control the Senate. But the House last year passed a bill allowing, and this is not a long time last year, but back in December, passed a bill allowing schools to serve whole milk. House has passed a bill allowing whole milk to be served in school cafeterias for the first time since 2012. The Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act, which permits the National School Lunch Program to serve whole milk, passed 330 to 99. Regulations have stipulated which types of milk can be offered in school cafeterias since 2012, when First Lady Michelle Obama moved to only permit low-fat milk and the low-fat milk variations. So, it hasn't gone anywhere. But Republicans are trying to bring whole milk back to the schools. See, another texter. Few texts coming in. I agree none of this would be happening under Trump. Texter says someone needs to hand Nick an AR-10 and go wild pig hunting. I think that's a great idea. Nick, I think you'd have a great time doing that. I still want to go hog hunting from a helicopter. Would you be up for that, Nick? I mean, I know, you're a little worried about like ships in the ocean. What are you okay with helicopters? And leaning out of helicopters, shooting hogs?
I don't know.
Come on, it'd be fun.
It'd be fun being in a helicopter, maybe. Remember, I said I want to skydive.
Yeah, that's true.
So hey, why not make it a trip? Make it a whole vacation. We'll wrap it all together. We can do your thing.
Yeah.
And then we can do my thing.
No.
So we'll both skydive.
No. I'm not going to skydive.
Look at that. We planned. That's our summer this year.
I don't think so. I'm not going to skydive.
Think about how close you'll get to the pigs, though.
I'll shoot them from the sky. I'm good.
All right, I'll skydive then.
Yeah.
You shoot, I'll skydive, tag team.
I think you'd have fun shooting hogs from a helicopter.
That sounds very difficult. I don't know if...
I'm sure it's not easy.
Is it mounted? I mean, are you just holding the gun?
That would be great. That would be fantastic if they had a turret. Oh, man.
Those pigs wouldn't stand a chance.
Yeah, no. You've got like your AR, and from what I've seen, now I haven't done this before. I'd love to though, and there are companies that offer tours. They just fly low. Is that what happens? Helicopter hog hunting costs about $3,000 per hour.
Okay, so not bad.
I'm trying to the listener. I'm trying to get invited. Okay. I'm not saying I want to pay, for Nick to go. I'm asking, see if we know anybody. Yeah. See if we got a buddy.
It's a gift.
Yeah. And maybe we have a buddy who has a helicopter. I don't know. We have a ton of listeners. Who knows? Whole milk from non-binary cows. Well, if the cow's transitioning, then that milk is okay. The schools can use that milk. Helicopter hog hunting costs about $3,000 per hour. Man, but it sounds so much fun. It sounds like it'd be a lot of fun. I don't know why. It just seems like it would be. 806. Yeah, Nick's not as into it as I am. Nick just wants to jump out of the helicopter because he's crazy. That's why. I want to shoot the hogs. Nick wants to jump out of there and hit the parachute and make sure everything's okay. 806-680-2790. USA Today, they've got their 5 takeaways from the useless debate that there was last night. One of the takeaways was that the narrower field led to direct, heated confrontations. With the debate stage whittled down to 2 candidates for the first time, Haley and DeSantis swung at each other early and often, but much less so at Trump. Haley accused DeSantis of lying about his record as governor, repeatedly urging the crowd to go to DeSantisLies.com. Boy, that was annoying. She said it at least 9 times in the 40 minutes I watched. To go to DeSantisLies.com. And then something else that was annoying me about Nikki Haley is that she was trying to pull the gender card here by saying that Ron, you can keep being condescending, Ron. You can keep being, and this was because you never hear guys say, "Stop being condescending to me." You never hear that. You do hear it from women. And Nikki Haley, she's out on social media going, "We need a strong woman." And I get it. It pumps up some of the female voters out there, but we're not supposed to be that party. We're not supposed to be the ones that play identity politics and say, "Oh, well, we're just going to vote for the woman because she's a woman." "Oh, we're going to vote for this person over here because of their race." That's not who we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be the ones getting away from the gender identity stuff and the racial identity and putting everybody into a little box. And Nikki Haley, it's girl power. Stop being condescending to me, Ron. Come on. And all he's doing is pointing out facts, things that she lies about. And she does lie about quite a few different things. I mean, the more that Nikki Haley comes out, I mean, she flip-flops on so many different issues. That's why I say there's virtually no difference between Nikki Haley and Mitt Romney. I mean, and she might be a little bit better. But again, it's the same ideas and the same ideas that we've heard with John McCain. It's the same ideas that we've heard with Liz Cheney. It's the same ideas that we've heard with all these establishment Republicans who at the end of the day, they don't do what they say they're going to do. They get too afraid. They get too scared. They don't want to be disliked by anybody. They don't want to be disliked by the press. They don't want to be disliked by the Democrats. They don't want to be accused of being racist or bigoted or homophobic or anything. They don't want to get out there and really, really fight for what they believe in. And you see it over and over and over and over again. And so Nikki Haley yesterday, she kept on saying, "Oh, just stop being condescending, Ron. Go to DeSantisLies.com. (806-680-2790). I've on the app chat, listener saying, "Sounds like you've had enough of Nikki Haley." I really have. And there was a time where I thought maybe she was going to be somebody that Trump picked as a VP. He should stay far away from Nikki Haley. Far, far away from Nikki Haley. 806-680-2790. Another texter coming in. We're also not the party that says if you disagree with me and have a different opinion, you've lied. It's exactly what Nikki Haley did last night. She looked more like a Democrat than a Republican. Another text. This one about Nick. Maybe Nick can shoot at the hogs while floating down in his parachute. Now, see, that would be something he could do. That would be fun. Hey, see, now I got a text message with a contact to Pig Chopper. I like that. Am I being invited? Because if so, hey, here we go. This could be fun. Just take the day off from the show and go have a little fun. I'll report back and tell you what happened. 806-680-2790. When we come back, we're going to wrap things up for the day.
There is a house in New Orleans.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. Friday edition Clay Travis Buck Sexton show, the last weekday before the votes officially start to come in for 2024 plus.
Continued craziness at the border, and it's happening also in American cities like New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles because the Biden border is wide open. We'll talk about how this affects the upcoming elections on Clay and Buck.
Clay Travis and Buck Sexton, tomorrow morning at 11.
This message is from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. Veterans deserve to know about the best services available to them. VA's new radio outreach page is a prime source for that information. The page, news.va.gov/outreach/radio, houses public service announcements that educate veterans on a cross-section of topics. That's news.va.gov/outreach/radio.
And Buck Sexton, weekdays at 11 a.m. on KFYO.
It was an early morning yesterday. I was up before the dawn, and I really have enjoyed my stay.
All right, welcome back to the Chad HD Show. Final segment of the program. Remember, you can follow us on social media at Chad HD Radio. That's at Chad Hasty Radio on social media. You also have the Current and Cask podcast. If you're not familiar with that, it's the podcast that I host with Matt Martin. It's about whiskey. It's about everyday life. It's a little politics, a little sports, and it's just kind of fun. We hang out and we review whiskey. One whiskey per show, and it drops each Saturday. And you can, of course, get that wherever you get your favorite podcast, whether it's Apple or Spotify, wherever the podcast platforms may be. And then also don't forget, you've got the Chad Hasty Show podcast, which drops right after the show, about 30 minutes or so after the show. Nick gets that online for us. Make sure that it looks good, and we'll get that out to you. You can subscribe, download anywhere you get your podcast from there for the Chad Hasty Show and Current and Cask. All right, let's see. Tomorrow, it's an open line Friday tomorrow. We will visit with the folks over at the RNC about what's happening on the ground in Iowa and the Iowa caucus. The Iowa caucus scheduled for Monday. Going to be, for the Republicans, it's going to be interesting. If I had to make a prediction, I still think Trump is going to win this thing in Iowa. And I think Nikki Haley may come out on top and defeat Ron DeSantis. She's got some momentum. Ron DeSantis has spent so much time in Iowa. He's basically moved to Iowa, and everything for him really hinges on winning. Now, Politico, they've got a story up, a blizzard warning issued for Iowa in the home stretch of the caucus campaigning. Forecasters warn travel will be nearly impossible tomorrow, just 3 days before the first Republican presidential nominating contest. as GOP candidates make a final push in Iowa ahead of next week's caucuses. Extreme weather conditions continue to stomp on their plans. The National Weather Service in Des Moines issued a blizzard warning and forecasted a winter storm of a magnitude seen only once or twice a decade. The storm is expected to begin Thursday night, continue into Friday, with 6 to 10 inches of snow and increased wind starting Friday morning. Quote, travel not recommended except if absolutely necessary, especially by Friday afternoon into evening. This is in Des Moines. Read the advisory. Following the storm, bitter cold temperatures expected to cover the state. The Weather Service cautioned Thursday that once temperature drops below zero during the day on Saturday, it will not climb above that mark until Tuesday. That's cold. Wind chills could plunge as low as, you ready for this, Nick? Minus 45 degrees. Is that real? How do you... I know you can calculate it, but what does that feel like? What is minus 45 degrees? What does that feel like when compared to a minus 11, which is what we're supposed to get around here on Monday morning? Minus 45 degrees. I can't imagine how that would feel. Oh. The leading candidates, Trump, Haley, DeSantis, Ramaswamy, all announced a full roster of campaign events for the weekend, even after another snowstorm earlier in the week already caused headaches. Spokesman for Ramaswamy told Politico the campaign would hold its Friday events as planned if possible, albeit without its bus or plane, which will be grounded by the weather. So, yeah, it'll be a little chilly for the Iowa caucuses. This is a year I'm glad I'm not there. That's a good thing. I've always said I want to go and experience one of the Iowa caucuses. I think that'd be fun. Again, I'm a political nerd, but yeah, I'm fine staying away from the minus 45 degree wind chills. That's okay with me. Don't need to be around that at all. All right. Follow me on social at Chat HD Radio. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Tomorrow, an open line Friday. We'll have some fun on the show as well. We got some stories that we just haven't been able to get to this week, including one state thinking about getting rid of tackle football for kids under the age of 12. We'll talk about that, should it happen here in Texas. So enjoy the rest of your evening. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay warm. God bless you all. We'll gather again tomorrow.
The Chad Hasty Show, a presentation of the Texas Town Square Media Network. The views and opinions expressed during the Chad Hasty Show are not necessarily the views of this station staff, management, advertisers, or Town Square Media.